Today, we are diving into a really fun thought experiment about one of TV's most iconic characters. We're going to pull one little thread from the show Friends and watch how the whole story can completely unravel and change.
Okay, so here's the big question. What if Phoebe Buffay never had her twin sister Ursula? Now I know, on the surface, that might not seem like a huge deal, right? She's just a side character. But what if taking her out of the picture isn't just about losing a person, but about shattering a mirror? Because that's exactly what Ursula is. She's what you'd call a classic mirror character. I mean, she has Phoebe's face, her DNA, the exact same starting point in life, but she makes all the opposite choices. Ursula is basically the shadow that allows us to see just how bright Phoebe's light really is.
So our first stop has to be identity. Because, without Ursula in the picture, Phoebe's entire backstory, the very foundation of who she is, starts to shift in some really fundamental ways. And this gets to the absolute heart of it. It's all about choice. We all know Phoebe had a really tough past, right? Living on the streets, losing her mom. But Ursula's existence proves that Phoebe didn't just survive all that. She actively chose a different path. She chose not to become cold, not to become selfish. Ursula is the living, breathing what if.
And this chart just lays it out so perfectly. Without Ursula, Phoebe's kindness is just a personality trait. It's sweet, but it kind of feels like a given. But with Ursula, that same kindness becomes an intentional act of rebellion. It's a choice she makes against the bitterness she so easily could have embraced. We don't just see a survivor, we see someone who consciously fought to create her own warmth.
Okay, so it shapes her identity. But it does more than that. Let's talk about how Ursula actually gives Phoebe a life of her own, narratively speaking, within the structure of the show.
Just think about it for a second. Most of the time, everyone else's drama revolves around their jobs, their relationships, or something happening inside that six-person bubble. But Phoebe, she has this whole other weird personal conflict just simmering in the background. It makes her world feel so much bigger than just Central Perk.
What it really boils down to is if you take Ursula away, Phoebe becomes way more dependent on the main group for her stories. She risks getting flattened into just being the quirky one. But with Ursula, she's this layered character with a deep, kind of bizarre history that we only ever get these little glimpses of.
And of course, you knew we had to talk about the comedy, right? Because losing Ursula means we lose a very, very specific type of humor from Friends. And you can see the split right here. Phoebe's core humor, the songs, her brutally honest way of looking at the world, all of that's safe. But the humor that comes from Ursula, that's on another level. It's the bizarre mistaken identity gags, the pure absurdity of having an evil twin trope play out in a sitcom. It's almost like a little peek into a different, weirder universe.
And, when you pull that specific type of comedy out, the show just loses a little bit of its magic. It becomes more grounded, sure, a little more conventional, and that unique, surreal edge that Phoebe and Ursula bring just gets smoothed over.
All right, let's shift gears and get into the real emotional core of all of this: family. Ursula's presence just completely changes Phoebe's relationship with the entire idea of family.
I mean, Phoebe's whole story is this search for family. But Ursula provides this crucial, kind of harsh dose of reality. She's family by blood, but not by choice, not by emotion. And that shows us a really difficult truth. Sometimes biological family is just a fact, not a feeling. It can be distant and frustrating and just imperfect. And you can really see her whole journey laid out here. It starts with this incredible loss. Then she's got Ursula, this ghost of a family connection, just hanging around. And dealing with that forces her to accept the messy reality of where she came from. And that is what makes the creation of her chosen family with the Friends so much more powerful and meaningful. It's a step she had to take.
Okay, so let's start to bring this all home. Because when you put all these pieces together, when you see everything that disappears along with Ursula, a pretty surprising question starts to emerge about who Phoebe really is.
Yeah, I know, it sounds totally backward, right? How could getting rid of someone so negative and toxic actually make a character weaker? But just think for a second about what Ursula's presence really accomplishes for how we see Phoebe.
And that's it. That is the key. Phoebe's strength is made visible because of Ursula. It's not just some internal quality that we're told she has. We see the proof. We see the exact path she refused to take. Her goodness isn't her default setting. It's an achievement. I mean, the contrast is just night and day. Without her twin, Phoebe's strength is something we just have to assume. We take it on faith. But with her twin, it becomes this undeniable, proven fact. We watch her actively choose her own path every single time she has to deal with that cold reflection in the mirror.
So in the end, having Ursula in the show transforms Phoebe from just a quirky survivor into this powerful statement about identity itself. She becomes this walking paradox, living proof that our origins don't have to be our destiny, and that who we become is defined by the choices we make, not just the hand we're dealt.
And that really says it all, doesn't it? A small detail, a seemingly minor character, can cast a shadow so large that it redefines everything we see in the light. Sometimes it's the reflection that gives the original its true depth. Thanks for digging into this with me today.